Tonight we continue our series of interviews with candidates for Boston City Council. The election will be on November 3rd, and tonight's guest running for re-election is the Councilor at Large from the South End. We'd like to welcome Michelle Wu. Thank you very much for being with us, Councilor.
Thanks for having me.
Certainly, looking back, whenever I see you in the chamber now, I think you and your son sitting in front of you at the desk. How has that changed, what you've been doing as a councilor?
Life is completely different now, and you thought you had time before, and now as soon as you're home with family every second, especially because Blaze is now 9.5 months, he's crawling, he's starting to pull up. It's beautiful and it's stressful, and I'm still not quite making it through the night, but gives me a good window on what families are going through and how much more we still have to do to make sure families are supported.
Which brings me to the family leave measure. This went quickly. There was support from other councilors and the mayor in this, but explain what made you finally turn on the light and get this thing going.
When I was pregnant, I would go around the city, and as my belly got bigger and bigger, everyone would come up to me and give me their best advice, but also share how hard it is to balance work and life. And I started asking around, planning what I would do after the baby came, and realized that City of Boston, in City Hall, there was no formal paid parental leave policy. So of course this is something that the mayor and my colleagues were very interested in remedying, and we were able to offer the first policy to really put Boston on that short list of cities that's saying we're going to step up while we're waiting for the state and federal government to do so.
Why is it so important for the city? Because you can say, well, this only affects city workers. There's so many other workers in the city who wouldn't be directly affected by this.
With this and with so many other issues, the City of Boston really can set the tone for what is acceptable in the workplace. And after we implemented it at the city level, we saw Treasurer Deb Goldberg and Attorney General Maura Healey implementing it for their employees. We saw Governor Baker starting to talk about it, and a little bit more momentum generated at the state level. So what we're doing in Boston is saying, this is not right, a situation where families are forced to choose between putting food on the table and being home with that new baby. So we are going to do everything within our power to push this forward, and then call on our other partners in private sector and nonprofits and other levels of government to do the same.
Another issue you worked on, which seems very different, transgender healthcare.
It's actually similar in that we want to be an employer, and in the City of Boston, we want to be a city where every family is welcome. And when you come to work in City Hall, you shouldn't have to worry about all of the other factors that make it difficult to balance. You shouldn't have to worry about taking time off to care for a baby. You shouldn't have to worry about needing to save up for out-of-pocket costs for gender transition surgery or hormonal treatments or mental health services. All of that makes the City of Boston a stronger employer. We can recruit the best talent, we can retain employees, and in the end it's a cost savings as well when we have higher morale and less turnover of employees.
Well, shortly after you get elected, you make waves in a way that maybe a lot of people didn't want to over your vote for City Council President. Now, there are some people out there who had a lot of trouble with it, and they say that Bill Linehan has only reminded them why this wasn't such a good idea. But how do you look back on this?
It was the first vote I took, and it came after a lot of conversation with my colleagues and around what the plans were for each person who wanted to be in that position. We've seen a council that, regardless of any individual's positions or decision-making on any specific topic, has come out unanimously for paid parental leave, for healthcare equity, has called has held hearings on a number of issues that have brought more transparency to city government, from the 2024 Olympics to housing inequities. And I hope folks will look at my record. I'm proud of my accomplishments and everything that I've gotten done over the first 2 years, and asking for their vote to be able to continue that work, because there's a lot more that needs to be done.
By the way, looking at some of the other things that people have been trying to bring to the council, one of the concerns I'm sure you're hearing a lot about is the cost of housing, and isn't there something the city can do to either protect tenants from displacement or at least give them some more time?
Yes, the council has held a number of hearings on this. I believe Councilor Jackson has proposed a few initiatives. Councilor Zachem has also strengthened protections for displaced tenants. And it's something that across the board we are hearing from every single neighborhood. When you look at downtown, you see all the cranes, the incredible economic growth. That needs to benefit the neighborhoods, and it should be helping the people who built these communities rather than pushing them out of our city. So there's a lot more that Boston should be doing. The mayor's been very committed to increasing the housing stock, increasing affordable housing production, so that we have more space for people. But we need to simplify the process so that the development cycles can happen quicker and there's less cost and more predictability. We need to strengthen protections for neighborhoods that are experiencing very quick displacement.
One of the other issues that the council addressed recently was body cameras on police officers. There was a hearing about this, and at the time there was a lot of skepticism from the police department. I think they're going along with the pilot on this. What would you like to see?
I think it's very important for every part of government to be fully accountable and have the trust of citizens. And body cameras, when implemented right, both protecting civil liberties and also creating that unbiased record of what happens, body cameras are another tool for that trust. I'm very proud of our police department and the work that's been done here, really creating history across the country, defining what community policing is and working together with community organizations, churches, residents. But body cameras would be one more tool to foster that trust.
One thing you've worked on, which is actually a continuation of what you were concerned with before you were on the council, and that's the permitting process for businesses. How are things better than they were before you started?
There's still a lot more work to be done, but we have a process now which is almost nearly 100% online, where business owners who are applying for their permits can submit the application online, can track the status of it. We're getting to the point now where even building plans will be able to be submitted online, and different departments can comment right through that website and the application, rather than bringing in multiple copies, distributing it to all the different departments, and then not being able to track who said what. The turnaround times have gone down a great deal. A lot of it is thanks to the administration, all of the agencies very carefully using data to say, how can we tighten these response times? How can we shave off a little bit of time here and there and make the process more efficient, while also continuing to protect health and well-being and everything that the regulations are there for?
We've seen a lot of deliberation on raises for councilors. How high or low should they go?
I'm not in favor of any raise under the current system. We should not be in a system where the city councilors can pick the number they want and then vote it through. It's a conflict of interest, and it's hard to separate yourself from that decision when you have to put the number there. So I was in favor of changing the system and taking it out of council hands. So until we do that, I won't be in support of any raise.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
City Councilor at Large running for re-election, Michelle Wu. We'll have more news in just a moment.